guys, welcome to Cooking with Class. I'm Chef Gooch. On today's episode, we're going to be making some of my favorite fall foods. We've got a pork loin. We're going to learn how to butterfly that. We're going to stuff it, and then we're also going to make some mashed sweet potatoes. So let's go ahead and get started. I've got about a third of a whole pork loin right here. Make sure you got a really sharp knife, and we're going to butterfly this open. All right, so we're not just cutting it in half. We want to actually open it up and kind of roll it out. So I'm going to start down here on the bottom, about half an inch to an inch, 3/4 of an inch up off the cutting board. Keep your knife parallel to the cutting board the whole time. All right, so we start this cut, and then we're just going to keep working our way across. And as we go across, we're going to start to open it up. It's pretty good so far. Keep rolling it. That's pretty good. Parts of this are still kind of thick, so we're also going to pound it out just a little bit. So to do that, we're going to get a piece of plastic wrap and then your favorite meat mallet, and we're going to give it just a little bit of a pounding. All right, so we're going to cover this in a little bit of plastic wrap. So meat doesn't go flying everywhere. And we're not trying to actually tenderize this, we just kind of want to make it even. You can see it's not exactly perfect, and that's okay. Almost there. That looks nice and even. Okay. So what we're going to stuff this with today, we're going to do some fresh sage. I've got some breakfast sausage, some cranberries, some apples, some pecans, and some breadcrumbs. So what we want to do is cook off the sausage, and then the fat in this breakfast sausage is going to moisturize this meat from the inside. Because pork loin is a little dry, it's not very fatty. And so this excess fat in this sausage is going to help keep that meat nice and moist from the inside out. Apples, cranberry, sage work really well together. We've got pecans because we're in Texas. And then some breadcrumbs. We're going to add a little bit of chicken stock to all of this, make a paste, and cover this up. So let's get started with that sausage. Into a hot pan. You don't need too much. Probably about 6 to 8 ounces of sausage. While that's cooking up, I'm going to go ahead and dice up my apples. You can leave the skin on for this. It's fine. Sausage stir. You don't have to get a lot of color on here because it's going back in the oven, so I'm going to make sure it gets cooked all the way through. I don't think I needed 2 whole apples. Probably 1 small to medium apple is all you need. This is great for a simple dinner, but also it's really impressive to take something like this, the stuffed pork loin, to a dinner party. Impress your friends. You're not looking for anything real nice on these apples. We're just gonna chop it all up. I'm going to put that into our bowl. All right, to that we're going to add a handful of dried cranberries, some pecans for some nice texture in there, and then some breadcrumbs. Sausage is almost done. Let's get some of this nice fresh sage. All right, we're going to roll our sage up. Go ahead and dice that up really small as well. All right, sausage looks like it's almost there. Let this cool off for just a second. Set it aside and cool off. All right, one thing that's important, we want to season both our filling and our pork loin. So I'm gonna ground a little bit of fresh salt on here. I've been grinding up some pepper, fresh ground pepper to put in there as well. I like big, coarse ground pepper. Add a little bit into our mixture. Okay. In goes the sausage. Try and break it up into smaller bits if you can. So the last thing we're going to add in here is going to be some chicken stock. How much chicken stock you use just depends on how much bread and everything else you have in here. So we just want it kind of moist. I'm going to start off with about a half of a cup. Just going to mix it up with our hands. Mix it all around. It's feeling pretty good already. And a little more breadcrumbs and a little more stock. There we go. It's forming like a paste almost. Don't want to over mix this, but that's okay. So once you have it all mixed up, we're going to press it into our pork loin or onto our cutting board. You want to make sure and leave a little bit of a gap around the outside because some of it is going to seep out as this roasts. You You could do this with a much larger cut of pork loin. I definitely made enough here to do twice as much. All right, so the next part is the fun part. We get to roll it all up. Turn this so you guys can see. All right, so I'm gonna start at this end and I'm gonna roll it up. What should I say here? Just try and keep it nice and tight. We don't want too much air. Nice. We got a nice spiral right there. That looks great. Okay. All right, guys, we've got our pork loin nice and stuffed. Now to prep it to go into the oven, I've got an oven cranked up to about 425 degrees. We've got some twine. We're gonna tie this up with some twine to make sure that it doesn't come undone. I'm gonna need about at least 3, maybe 4 pieces of twine here. We're not gonna do anything real fancy, just a simple square knot. Work it in, just tighten a knot. Nice tight double knot. So I'm going to place this on a small pan and we're going to walk it over and put it in an oven about 425 degrees. We want to do that really hot to start off with to help crisp up some of this fat. Then we're going to turn the temp down to 350 degrees. It's going to take a total of about 45 minutes in the oven. Next up, we're going to make one of my favorite side dishes. And everybody is always making sweet potatoes a little too sweet. We see a lot of butter, brown sugar, marshmallows, and it's great and I love it, but you can make sweet potatoes savory as well, and I think you'll find you absolutely love them. So we're going to do some savory mashed sweet potatoes today. I do like to do a combination of sweet and regular potato, about equal parts by weight. And today what's going to go into these is a little bit of cayenne pepper and some fresh rosemary. It's one of my favorite combinations. So let's get these peeled. All right, one thing that's really important with mashed potatoes is you never want to put mashed potatoes into boiling water like they're pasta. We want to make sure we add them into cold water. That way the inside of the potato heats up at the same speed as the water and we don't end up with a bunch of mush. If you put potatoes into boiling water, the outside of each potato will become mush by the time the inside is ready, and we don't want that. Cold water. Now the reason I like to do equal parts sweet potato and regular potato is so that if you've ever roasted some sweet potatoes or had baked sweet potatoes, they can be a little stringy. And that texture can be a little off-putting for some people, especially in mashed potatoes. And that's why we're doing equal parts. We're still gonna get a beautiful orange color for our mashed potatoes. Try to make sure all your slices are about the same size so they'll cook the same rate. Bring this up to a boil and let it go for about, well, as long as it takes until your potatoes are done.
The start of school signals important traffic safety reminders for everyone. School zones will be active along our major thoroughfares and neighborhood streets. Drivers are reminded to slow down, watch for pedestrians, and put away cell phones. Students and families are reminded to cross the street using designated crosswalks, where drivers can anticipate increased pedestrian traffic before and after school.
All right, guys, while our potatoes are in the oven drying out, we're gonna make what's called a gastrique. A gastrique is a sweet and sour sauce. It's made out of sugar, vinegar. It's gonna be a great accompaniment for our pork loin. So to start that off, we've got about a cup of sugar. And to that, we're gonna add just a little bit of water to make it the texture of wet sand. Okay, let's get that going. We're going to start cooking that. What we're looking for is for this to boil and to almost caramelize. We're going to get it up to just where it starts to get some color on. Once that happens, we're going to add a little bit of cranberry juice and some white balsamic vinegar. This is a pear-infused balsamic vinegar and just basic cranberry juice. We're gonna have a nice bright red cranberry sauce to go with our pork. A little bit different than your traditional like cranberry jelly you might see at Thanksgiving. All right, sugar has come to a boil. We wanna let that keep boiling. The bubbles are gonna get real thick and viscous, and then right when it starts to get a little bit of color, it's hit about 270 degrees, so be very careful. And we're gonna add about a cup of cranberry juice and a splash of this balsamic vinegar. All right, guys, if we look in the middle, our bubbles have gotten nice and thick, and there's a little bit of color forming in the center of our sugar. So now's about the time we can add our liquid. Be really careful, it's gonna splatter up just a little bit. It sounds scarier than it is, though. That liquid's going to cause all the sugar to seize up, so we're just going to leave it on the heat for a minute. You can see it forms big clumps of sugar, and then that's going to dissolve. So we're just going to leave the heat on high. It's going to make a nice thick sauce. Add a little bit of this vinegar as well. About 2 ounces. Try not to stir your sugar mixture before you add the liquid because it can cause your sugar to crystallize. We'll let that come back up to a boil, and all that sugar is going to dissolve, and we're going to have a nice thick sauce. We're going to put it right back in our bowl. All right, all of my sugar has dissolved. The sauce is a little thin right now, but as it cools down, it will definitely thicken up. Now that's done, we're going to pull our potatoes out of the oven and finish them. And right when they finish, our pork should be done as well. We'll be right back. So this next step, not everybody has one of these at home, but I highly suggest it. This really takes your potatoes to the next level. And this is called a ricer. It's gonna make sure that we get any lumps or any of that stringiness out of our potatoes. So it's super easy to use. Some people have like a food mill that you have to crank with your hand, but one of these that you press is very easy. Push the potatoes through, comes out about the size of rice, hence the name. And what I like to do for my potatoes, we want to get all this excess moisture that maybe some of the potatoes have absorbed during the boiling process. We want all of that out so that we can add in the liquid we want, which is some cream and some butter. This extra little step is definitely worth it. This just helps to guarantee that I don't have any of the stringiness from those sweet potatoes. This makes for really nice, smooth mash. Okay, so what we want to do is dry this out just a little bit. So I'm going to throw it in a low oven for about 5 or 10 minutes. While I'm doing that, I've got some butter that's come up to room temperature and a little bit of cream. For those 3 potatoes, we'll probably use anywhere from 4 to 8 ounces of butter and about a cup of heavy cream. We definitely want to make sure that we warm our heavy cream up, because if you add cold cream to potatoes, it's going to cool them off too fast, and we don't want that. So I'm going to go pop these in the oven and be right back. All right, my potatoes are in the oven drying out. I've got about a cup of cream here warming up, and then I've got some butter. And one thing I want to do, I don't want to put too much fresh rosemary in my potatoes because I just don't like the little bits. So what I'm going to do is we're going to steep some of this rosemary into our heavy cream, and then that'll give it some nice rosemary flavor. And when we add that cream to the potatoes, it's going to bring some of that rosemary. We might use some of it to garnish our potatoes, or if you really want to put some in there, you can. It's okay. I just don't like putting a lot. I don't like the texture of rosemary. It's kind of, it's a little bit firm compared to a lot of other herbs. So I'm going to chop it up really, really, really fine. It's shooting all over the place. Butter in there. All right, that should be fine. Our cream's coming up to a boil. We don't want it to overflow, so we're going to turn that heat down. All right. Getting that excess moisture out of your potatoes also helps to avoid them becoming gummy. You definitely don't want that. That's about all we need is that right there. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and start off with a couple pads of butter. Like I said, it takes a lot of butter. Add this cream and try and keep that rosemary from getting in there. Scrape down as you see necessary. Don't forget, we're also going to add a little bit of cayenne. Cayenne and rosemary go really good together. You can add as much or as little as you like, depending on how spicy you like it. We've got some salt. We'll taste this again in a minute and adjust our seasoning as necessary. Probably should have cut my butter a little smaller. Potatoes are looking really good. Let's taste and adjust the seasoning as necessary. I haven't even added this chopped up rosemary yet because it smells so fragrant already. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit of that, a little bit more cayenne, and definitely some more salt. Some butter to serve with our potatoes. Yeah, now you can smell that rosemary. Those are finished. I'm gonna go grab the pork and we're gonna cut that up and plate our wonderful fall meal. All right, pork is out of the oven. I checked the temp, it was at about 142 degrees, which is perfect. We're gonna let that carry over to about 145, which is perfect. That's where we can eat pork. I let it rest for about 10 minutes and it carried over in that time. Let's cut our twine. As you can see on the top of our pork here, we've got a nice crispiness on that fat. And pork looks really good. So let's cut into it. See, it's not too hot anymore. That first slice is always the ugliest. Oh man, but for an ugly slice, that's pretty nice. Look at that. Tender and juicy all the way through. Let's plate that up over here. Very nice. Let's move this over. Look at that beautiful orange color, super smooth. These are great. Going to add a little bit of butter on the top there. And then let's add some of that cranberry gastrique to our pork. Look at that color. Maybe a little sage for garnish, or some rosemary if you prefer. All right, guys, there you have our wonderful fall plate, stuffed pork loin and mashed sweet potatoes with cayenne and rosemary. Thanks for gorging with Gooch.
This has been a production of the students and staff at Lubbock ISD TV.